Yeah, when we were designing the overall agenda for the summit, we definitely also wanted to have some, well, political discussions, also some non-technical or semi-technical discussions as well integrated here in order to advertise, as I've already mentioned in the introduction session, the topic that we focus on, that we want to push forward. And in this context, the idea, arise that we create a panel discussion with experts combined from industry, also from the political sphere, and discuss a very important topic which, from time to time is forgotten. It is a topic of continuity, so that, we really stay on track and push forward things, not just via a few months, maybe one or another year, but that we think even in decades. Regarding the things that we drive forward, that we want to push forward. And what we see currently in the world out there is here and there yet another initiative. So we have heard, I think, a couple of names during the last months and years of foundations, of initiatives, of organizations, of different funded projects that have arisen. So things like, for example, the important project of common European interest focusing on, in the context of SIS, focusing on cloud infrastructures, or we have heard about NeoNephos, a new open source foundation as part of the Linux Foundation that is responsible for also quite interesting technology stack funded on Kubernetes and other things. And apart from this, there are organizations like the OSBA. There is a sovereign cloud stack that has received funding from Germany during, a couple of years even. And we see, here and there, new things popping up, coming around and, declaring that there is a specific focus that they have, that where they want to push forward something during, a couple of months or even years. What we as ALASCA want to add to the overall discussion here together with others, we see the same discussion also coming from others to us in the same moment, is that we really should check what is in the background, the joining force, what is in the background core topic or set of core topics where, we don't have any detailed discussion about them, but they are definitely given for us, like, open source is key, or like community-driven approach is key. And here we want to, unite the different forces, unite the different initiatives, and see them just as also components in an overall puzzle on the journey to digital sovereignty. And with this panel that, we have initiated here, we also want to add a small component here after others we had in the past. For example, we had a round table in Berlin in March, where we have discussed with people from the OSBA, from the SCS context, from the IPSE context, and other initiatives, how we could, work together. What are the things in the background that are always the same and where we want to drive things forward together. And here in this round now, we want to, continue this discussion, as we will do definitely also during the next months. We are currently in a discussion of a very interesting podcast that we want to prepare, for example, and other means that we want to initiate, centered around that topic, continuity on the path to digital sovereignty, where we don't want that the world is fragmented and, everybody has their own small kingdom, and there are other kingdoms that are definitely far worse than their own kingdom and all that shitty stuff. But we really want to have, a joint and common understanding of the things going on in the background that are important community-driven approaches, open source technology, competencies that we want to build up. And in this context, we want to definitely prove continuity during the next years and decades as ALASCA, and want to join forces with other initiatives. I'm happy to hand over the word to Julia from Silicon Saxony, or, in the first place, Sebastian Lindner. Please come to the stage and, give some insights about the things that the Free State of Saxony does in this context. So there has been, some discussions on open source in the Free State of Saxony in the past, definitely. There is a highly interesting strategy also behind this, an open source strategy, and Sebastian Lindner would like to give also, some insights into this overall context and the perspective of the Free State of Saxony in this context, and give a short introduction to that topic for you. The stage is yours.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, dear Marius Feldmann, welcome to Dresden. It's a great pleasure and honor for me to welcome you here today at the ALASCA Summit in Dresden, right in the heart of Silicon Saxony, Europe's most dynamic high-tech region. I have the honor of representing State Secretary Sebastian, as we are sharing the same first name. This is the closest we could get to him today, who unfortunately could not be with us in person. It is therefore a special pleasure for me to convey his warm greetings and best wishes to all of you. And I must say, when I first heard the title of this conference, not from Alaska, from Europe, built for Europe's cloud future, I thought, well, that's good news. Because judging by today's weather this morning, heavy rain and low temperatures, we could almost be in Alaska, but fortunately, we are in Dresden. But in all seriousness, this motto captures exactly what we need. European innovation, European collaboration, and European confidence in building our own digital future. First of all, let me express my sincere thanks for the kind invitation and the warm welcome. And a special word of appreciation goes to Marius Feldmann and the entire ALASCA team for their dedication and vision in creating such an inspiring platform for exchange and cooperation. Already the second year in a row. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Saxony is known around the world for its semiconductor strength, for microchips, clean rooms, and global leaders in manufacturing. But our innovation power reaches far beyond hardware. Increasingly, it is software, data, and especially open source technology that determine Europe's competitiveness and sovereignty in the digital era. That is why the Free State of Saxony has adopted its own open source strategy already in 2023. Because open source is more than a licensing model, it's a mindset. It stands for transparency, collaboration, and trust. It allows systems to be interoperable, secure, and sustainable. And it helps Europe to build digital infrastructures that are not dependent on a handful of global hyperscalers. At the same time, because we place the digital transformation at the very top of our political agenda, we are currently developing a new, dynamic, and streamlined, overarching digital strategy for Saxony. This, let me call it, umbrella strategy, will consist of several specialized chapters that can be updated and adapted flexibly, ensuring that our digital policies remain agile, forward-looking, and responsive to new developments and societal needs. Projects such as the Sovereign Cloud Stack and its successors demonstrate what is possible when innovation and openness go hand in hand. They enable us to create cloud environments made in Europe for Europe, ensuring that data, services, and value creation remain under our own control. This is what true digital sovereignty looks like in practice. Alaska, as an alliance, plays a key role in this journey. It brings together the stakeholders, large and small, that share the same conviction: that Europe must not only consume digital technologies, but also create them. And that open source is the best path to resilience, innovation, and freedom of choice. Here in Saxony, we see that spirit every day, from our semiconductor fabs to our software startups, from AI research to quantum computing and communications. All of this comes together in one ecosystem, driven by people who believe that progress happens when we work together. So I'm confident that this that this summit will not only showcase exciting technologies, but also strengthen the community of those who want to build a truly European digital future. Open, sovereign, and fair. I wish you all an inspiring day, many valuable discussions, and plenty of new connections. Thank you very much, and welcome again to Dresden, to Silicon Saxony, and to Europe's cloud future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, for the panel, I would like to introduce our panel moderator, Julia Nitzschner from Silicon Saxony. Please come to stage. As well as... Yeah, you can take a seat. And I would also like to welcome to stage Sebastian Lindner. Lund-Larsen, CEO of Cyberus Technology. Matthias Eble, Head of Platform Reliability at STACKIT. Kai Martius, CTO at secunet, Security Networks. Christian Berendt, CEO and founder of 23 Technologies. Kurt Garloff, CEO at S7N Cloud Services. That's quite a ridiculous name. Pronounce. And now, Julia, it's your stage.
Yeah, well, thank you for introducing our panel. Take a seat, please. I thought that was my task, but now you're already here, so thanks for being here. My name is Julia Nitzschner. I like to welcome you to that panel. I am a podcast host and senior content creator at Silicon Saxony. You already heard the name. That's not only Europe's largest microelectronics cluster, but also the largest microelectronics and ICT network association in Europe. For me, today's panel is a bit like coming home, because last year I already had the honor to moderate the panel at the first ALASCA Summit, and also the Round Table in March you already heard about. And yeah, the panel of today is directly following that Round Table, because also there we talked about continuity, as well as in the ALASCA white paper that was published right after that Round Table. So why is that topic so important? We all know, and I'm pretty sure you are following the news, that Europe is in a state of enormous dependency on infrastructure, but also on services, mainly from the United States. And these infrastructures and services have become a key factor when it comes to economic and geopolitical power. But on the other hand, we have quite a few initiatives, Marius just mentioned them, to retain control and to develop a sovereign digital infrastructure. And what you might not know is how these initiatives collaborate, how they work together, but also how they scale innovations, for example, by turning concepts into use cases and into a real demand. So today we will be talking about the measures that need to be taken to make open source and digital sovereignty a true driver for security in Europe. And exactly that is what we are going to talk about today, and our panelists are all deeply involved in these initiatives and will share not only first-hand experience, but also practical insights and valuable lessons learned. So already thank you for that. Yeah. As you were briefly introduced, I think maybe we can make another round of introduction, because I think to get everyone on the same page, it would be great to see how your personal commitment and professional commitment to that topic looks like. So maybe we just start from left to right, if that's okay with you, Kurt. Do you want to start?
Sure. Thanks for having us here on the panel. Kurt Garloff, my name. I've done open source for all of my professional life. Started with like the curiosity to understand how things really work, which was driving me, and then later on what was really driving me was working with these really smart people all over the world that create technology that matters. That's fun. And if you ask me today, I think we have a mission, and that mission is indeed to see that these powerful tools that we have with IT that basically run our private lives, our economical lives, our societies, that we keep control over these and have those control in the hands of the people that use them, as opposed to under the control of a few very, very large corporations, which may turn out not to be as good as we thought they would be previously. So that's driving me, and I've been doing this in various positions, working a long time with SUSE, built Open Telecom Cloud for T-Systems, built the Sovereign Cloud Stack project, ran that, and I'm now seeing that this community thrives and grows further, even beyond the funded phase, which is working on really nicely. So it's good to be here to see this great community, which we collaborate very, very closely with and make progress together.
Yeah, thank you. Christian.
Yeah, so my name is Christian Berendt, and I'm involved with open cloud infrastructures for more than 15 years. So OpenStack has its 15th birthday this year. And we started with one of the first OpenStack releases for one of the clouds of SAP a long time ago. And today we are still doing the same in the end, and we try to focus on R&D work in the cloud native area for companies like SAP or from the automotive area, to help them to build cloud native infrastructure on their local sites. And as part of this, I am one of the board members of the NeoNephos Foundation that holds some of those larger infrastructure projects, like the Gardener that enables the managed Kubernetes as a service for large enterprises, as well as MSPs or CSPs. And I'm also part of the Alaska Technical Steering Committee to help to operate those tools, because it's nice to have tools like Gardener, but it's useless when you cannot operate them and bring them to the customers. And in the end, our focus is to establish and partner system so that we can collaborate with them to offer high quality service for large enterprises as well as MSPs and CSPs, so that they can offer in the end high quality services to their customers, so that we can compete with the hyperscalers here in Europe to have a federated cloud ecosystem in the end. And to do this together on an open source base and with open collaboration and so on.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kai Martius, and I'm a great believer in open source and open standards, because that's the foundation of trustworthiness and innovation. I already talked about that. I think security by obscurity is not an option, so trustworthiness without open source is not an option. In that sense, in my role as CTO at secunet, I drive this innovation and this topic in a broader sense in our products, but also in these communities to contribute, but also to build great products finally for our customers. And so I'm very interested in further discussing this topic also on this panel.
And you studied in Dresden, right?
I'm based in Dresden, yes.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Matthias Eble, and I can also proudly say that the whole 25 years of my career, open source has been driving what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. So I took the chance to learn quite well from open source when I was younger, and I was happy to be joining STACKIT, the cloud that we're building from the Schwarz Group in 2020, to grow that from really a smallish team of people to a real big company. My role there is head of platform reliability and infrastructure as a service. That means we build the infrastructure platform, all the stuff around OpenStack and all the layers, the foundational layers of the cloud in my teams. This is also where, like Marius introduced, the Yauk was ignited, so to say. And as another part of the role, head of reliability, I care for overall platform reliability on all the products and all the services around STACKIT.
Sebastian.
Yeah, my name is Sebastian Lindner. I'm head of department for digital strategies and AI at the Saxon Ministry of Economic Affairs. I started my job in the ministry in February this year. Some years before, I had the same role in the State Chancellery of Saxony. And I'm not a techie by profession, but I'm deeply interested in what's going on in this high-tech ecosystem here in Saxony. So my daily work consists of looking into the things that happen in the field of high technology. Especially, we were responsible at the State Chancellery and also right now at the Saxon State Ministry for Economic Affairs for developing the AI strategy for the Free State of Saxony, and now developing, as said before, an umbrella strategy for all the high technology topics here in Saxony. My team and I are also responsible for the settlement of TSMC, ESMC, and keeping in touch with all the semiconductor companies here in Dresden and Saxony, but also take a look on to companies like yours to be part of the Silicon Saxony.
Thanks, Sebastian. Tor, last but not least.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Tor. I'm from Cyberus Technology. I guess I'm a little bit of an outlier here because I'm a mechanical engineer. I've never written a line of code in my life, and I know actually very little about open source or the technicalities of open source. I do, however, have a team that has told me that open source is the way to go. And the more we work on this, the more it is obvious, the more I talk with Marius, with Kai, and with everybody around, it is clear that the geopolitical situation right now, that open source is the opportunity for us in Europe to kind of get out of our lethargy and start getting with the program. We have all the technical competences that we need here in the room and everywhere in Germany and Europe. We just need to use them. So I'm here a little bit to appeal that we now finally find the will to collaborate, that we find the will to move beyond the Kleinstaaterei. I don't know what the word in English is, small statery, I don't know. That we actually accept that technologically, on standards, on we can collaborate very effectively, we can share with each other on technological modules, on standards, on methodology, but that in no way prevents us from not competing with each other. So there's a difference between collaborating on standards, collaborating on technologies, agreeing on certain fundamentals, and then going out and beating each other in the marketplace. We can do both, and we can do better, and I hope, and that's why I'm very happy to be here, I hope that we, as part of the Alaska community, also as part of the Neo-NAFOS community, where Cyberus also plays a minor role, that we can actually understand the opportunity that we have and think of this as an opportunity and not as somehow a burden. Finally, and that is a Steckenpferd. I don't even know what that is in English, but But digital sovereignty does not start high up in the cloud. It starts at the low-level infrastructure level. And I'm very happy to have representatives from Silicon Saxony here, because we talk a lot about production of chips. Intel in Magdeburg was supposed to get billions and billions, etc. But what about the development of the chips? What about RISC-V? Is there an opportunity for us in Europe to basically create open source hardware? So that's the kind of thing. By the way, I was 15 years at Intel, so I happen to know how they think about it. They're against it.
I wonder why.
So as perhaps a little bit of the contrarian here, I think it's fantastic that we have this community, but I encourage every single one of us to think this bottoms up. And to that end, I'm very proud at Cyberus, and I'm allowed to announce it now, that our Cyberus hypervisor, we've talked a lot, we've seen the presentations, the hypervisor virtualization is a topic that everybody talks about, and there are 50 hypervisors out there, but now there is also one that has BSI accreditation. Okay? It's based fully on open source, KVM Cloud Hypervisor, and for those in the cloud community, if your customers need VSNFD, so higher security ratings, we now have that technology component available in the open source community from all of you. And happy to talk to you more about that at a different time. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Tor. You mentioned so many important aspects, and I think we will be coming back on them, or back to them. Maybe just a quick note to our discussion. When you have anything to add, or you have something in mind, just step in, because I think a lively discussion will have the greatest impact and benefit for our audience. But for the beginning, maybe to get everyone on the same page, if you had to accelerate how sovereign Europe is at the moment, maybe on a scale from 1 to 10, what would you say and why? We can start again from left to right if you want.
Okay, I give it 3 points out of 10. And if you had asked me a few weeks ago, it would have been 2 out of 10. We achieved the last point by the European Commission finally publishing their sovereignty framework, which is actually a reasonable step forward. And then, and that's I think the most important thing, not just having like a framework, but then also having a big tender process that actually references those criteria and rates them really high. So I think we're making progress, but I mean, if we're honest, we're just starting. And I mean, we've been arguing for 5 years that we need to invest there, and we have heard a lot of good intentions. We haven't seen a lot of actions in the past. So it's good if you have like a strategy, you want to become more digital sovereign, and then have like procurement processes that don't value those criteria in any way. And that's the way you don't make real progress, because we need an ecosystem of companies to make money on sovereign technologies. We need them to grow, and we haven't achieved a whole lot there yet. But I mean, at least I see some acceleration now, and there's some movement. And if we do that, I mean, in a few years, we can get to much better numbers.
Yeah, I thought about 1.
Oh gosh, there's a lot to do.
But I think 2, same reasons. So we are talking and talking and talking, and we are not building, and we have, so everything is there. The use cases are there, the technology is there, the experts are there, the ecosystem is there, but yeah, we do not build the large thing. And we have to build this in a way that it works together in Europe, and I do not see this at the moment. I see a lot of things that are built, but they do not work together. And I think this way we cannot solve the European or the German issues we have. And I think the stuff like Eurostack or Deutschlandstack and will be interesting if really things are changing, and if this not is just another layer that we can talk about, and so that we have more papers and more documents and more agencies that can out there and can say, yeah, please use the Deutschland stack, and nobody knows what is the Deutschland stack really, and will it be there in 10 years or in 20 years? So we have to think in decades when we go to the industrial sector, and it takes time, but yeah, I don't see how this can change the next years when we'll keep on talking about things and not building together. So I stay on 2, not
so
on 3.
So we have an optimistic 3 and a pessimistic 2. And we continue with?
Way below 10. Way too low, or way too few, yeah. So many things are said. I think we have to start to use that what is there. It's not perfect, but to understand we have to start and improve is very important. So getting better is the goal, I think.
Okay.
So I try to say something different. So maybe I would rate this as some kind of optimistic 7. But,
okay.
I mean, just to have the contrast. I mean, it's not interesting. I could also say something like, yeah, you know, maybe some thoughts. So, if I would be a venture capital company, then I would probably say, okay, or I would probably do the things that all these kind of companies do. They have multiple bets. So they have multiple companies, and they don't try to push together all the companies that are funding to do one big thing, but they are trying to see, okay, will they do it? Or will they do it great? They will have progress. The other ones maybe not. So I think we should probably stop thinking about like having this big thing, which will then be the true thing that will rule out everything. And this is why I'm very optimistic to things like Near sparking up and ALASCA. And maybe some people would say maybe this is somehow related and similar. Why you're doing this? And I think it's actually a good thing. And trying to bring two heterogeneous things together often fails, and this is what we also try often, and we sometimes do not learn from that. So I believe having a strong awareness on the topic and having all these open source fundamentals and foundations really being built, like you said, you build a hypervisor because you think this is a critical component that is required, and I think it absolutely is. So there is a lot of positive things I can see in the market. But maybe the expectation is actually the thing that is determining how we look at situations. And of course, I agree, we should be farther down the road and more successful in also promoting what we do. Yeah, but I think we can also be optimistic because the topic, and through this other ALASCA Summit, maybe also it's mostly obvious to everyone right now that is definitely important, and we're working on it. So we're getting some move. I'm quite happy with that.
Sebastian, maybe you can answer that question with a specific Saxon view.
To be honest, I don't have really an answer, but just first of all, I would give an optimistic 3, because I see that that the awareness of this topic of European sovereignty is known of more and more people all around, also in the political sphere, but what especially the political sphere is lacking at the moment is speed. Speed in processes, speed in generating ideas, and then getting these ideas to reality. This is one point, but I see some light at the end of the tunnel that maybe we gain speed, also on the European level. And the second thing, what makes me optimistic is that, yes, we have a lot of ideas, we have a lot of people here, but we have to encourage them that they do their businesses, that they do their ideas here in Europe, in Germany, in Saxony, and not follow, let's say, follow the money of the Googles of this world to work there, but to give them a real good ecosystem here at this old continent, this old Europe, and maybe when we meet next year, I will give an optimistic 5.
Well, I forgot to say one thing, and that is I'm Norwegian, which means, unlike most of you Germans, I do not start my sentence mit das Problem ist. So I am an optimist, and I don't know what the scale is, but I am an optimist, and you know, perhaps it's very favorable that I haven't been in the open source community and have suffered the last 25 years of lack of understanding. But at least I see that there is a newfound understanding, and this understanding, and this is important, it is not at the EU level, because that has actually been there for a while. And it's not at the small company layer, because we have been dealing in open source for years. What is new and what makes me optimistic is that the big players in Germany, like a STACKIT, like an SIP, like a secunet, like a G&D, and several of the companies that they're starting to talk about open source strategy. They're starting to talk about how can we create business models that work for all the players in the ecosystem. Open source software is not free software. And it is that understanding, I think, that has been lacking. And I think there is actually a newfound appreciation for that complexity. So at least in the Umkreis that I'm working on, I find a whole new level of understanding that, yeah, there's got to be something in it for the small kids. It's got to be, because a lot of the open source expertise sits with the thousands of small companies that are everywhere. We've seen a sprinkling of them present, but they're everywhere, people that have 5, 10, 15 people that really are into their open source community thing. Now, these guys also need to have a business model, and when the big boys in Germany, in Europe, start figuring out that this is an incredible resource that they can tap into, well then I think we have solved the biggest sort of delaying factor, namely that it's got to work out commercially for everybody. And it's great that EU throws money left and right, wonderful. It's fine that us small kids do our enthusiastic thing, but you big boys and government, you guys need to start buying this stuff. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, and yes, we understand that we can't compete initially with a 20-year-old solution that has evolved for 20 years, yeah? I get it. So maybe there's going to have to be a little bit of learning process on both sides. Maybe there's going to have to be some competence building on the side of government, yeah? But you talked about 2023, that there's an open source strategy for Saxony. Brilliant. We know that in Schleswig-Holstein, they are doing a very heroic effort. It's difficult. Yeah, they're struggling. It's difficult, but they are doing it. And so I am optimistic that that the great work that you guys have been doing this for 25 years, that it's now starting to pay off, and give us another 5 years, and I'm sure we'll be in a very, very different place. So I'll go with your 7.
Yeah, and thank you. And I want to add on that, because I think, of course, as you said, I mean, there needs to be some kickstarting, because, of course, we are quite far behind, and also on the journey of STACKIT, it was like, okay, we want to build a cloud. Everybody laughed at us because, of course, yet another private cloud that will publicly fail. I think we're really in a different situation now, and I think last week or so I had this AWS commercial somehow on my screen, and it said like sovereign AWS cloud. And I say, okay, so maybe this term has now found its place, and everybody likes, okay, we want to have our nuance and why we can still claim this term. And in the first place, I guess, this is real progress. Of course, I don't follow their judgment about sovereignty and so on, because we have a very different view on that. But this is really also the success that manifests. And also this conference, I mean, we see that things are on the move. And what I initially wanted to say is that, yes, of course, public and so on need to buy it, but it also needs to be good. And this is what we're seeing, because the expectations from a cloud have also shifted to what the hyperscales actually provide, because all the startups and stuff, they create on a very high level basis out of abstraction. So the technology we're talking about here mainly is building the infrastructure and trying to go to the chips and maybe to the GPUs, to the raw technology when it comes to real like supply chain resiliency. But we also need to have a look what actually solves the problems of this decade, or if this actual situation at the moment. And this very drastically evolved from like, let's say, having virtual machines and connected through a network. It's more from the Kubernetes path and even higher up. So I think this also needs to be clear for us, that we need to build the things. We have all the components together, I believe, but also to have this ecosystem on value, or making it easy to create value in Europe is not to be forgotten. And also, this is for me the perspective. Like we have the core infrastructure, we need to go down to the hardware as well as up the value chain to create real value.
I'd like to come back to the Saxon open source strategy to say something positive, because we have it. And Sebastian, can you please assess what has been reached so far with this strategy? Because in the end, it's first a paper, and it needs to like be pushed on the streets.
Yes. First of all, when the open source strategy was invented in 2023, my team and I were not responsible for it. So we have some, let's say, weird divide inside the Saxon state government. So for all the topics of digitization outside the ministerial world, my ministry is responsible, and we're talking to companies and other stakeholders. But for the internal digitization of the administration, the state chancellery is in charge. So we are talking a lot, we're communicating a lot to paralyze both worlds, let me say it this way. I think we're, right at the moment, we're on a good path, but just to give you a better understanding that this is not one single selling point or one-stop shop, let me say it this way, inside the Saxon state government, who is responsible for digitization at all. So to speak for the state government, we think that the open source strategy has created a quite solid foundation for digital sovereignty in the last years. We set clear objectives, we set the implementation path, and we see a growing awareness across government and industries on the topic of open source. And the first results are visible, like pilot projects, the cooperation with ALASCA, and the sovereign cloud stack. And we see also a stronger institutional anchoring of open source principles in the state government. And also there are plans for the next generation of data centers and on software programs that will be used by the state government to take an intensive look on open source products. And so from our point of view, the next step is scaling. So turning the strategy into everyday practice through procurement. That is very important. The colleagues are working on new guidelines for procurement to give smaller enterprises the chance, and younger enterprises like startups, and not grown-ups like SLP, to get the foot in the door. Another field is that we turn the strategy into practice in the field of education, and to create real use cases in public administration. So we are right at the moment inside the state government at a starting point. So the topic of speed, as I mentioned, is also a thing where we're not in the first row, let me say it this way, but I hope we gain speed then in the next few months and years. Thank you.
Tor, you want to add something?
Is there any ambition to learn from or go the way of what they are trying to do in Schleswig-Holstein? I mean, there was 5, 6, 7 years ago an effort in Bayern to do a switch. They gave it up, right? And then Schleswig-Holstein picked it up 5 years, and and there's a reasonable chance of success. Yeah, is there a similar thought in Saxony?
We are looking full of interest to the colleagues of Schleswig-Holstein.
That's diplomatic, isn't it?
And we're admiring them for their braveness. And yes, but we're not only looking, but we're in close contact with them. So we have a bunch of working groups among the German Länder. The colleagues of Schleswig-Holstein constantly reporting on their progress, let me say it this way. I think there is some kind of pilot for all other Länder. As far as I'm involved, I think if they have some public Zwischenbilanz, then other Länder like the Free State of Saxony then will follow their path.
Yeah, I want to come back to this this idea of continuity when it comes to existing initiatives, because Marius already mentioned the sovereign cloud stack, and we have NeoNephos as a collaborative home for shared code. We have ALASCA as the Operators Alliance, and IPSI-SIS as the large European funding framework. What would you say? Is this enough, and how do these initiatives collaborate? Do they collaborate enough? Is there anything more to do? How would you assess the current situation of initiatives? Kai, yeah.
There are many initiatives, and the first view, I'm a proponent of competition, so maybe it's good to have different approaches, but at some point we have to find a common denominator of standards. Let me call it more interoperability, in a sense that things that are developed here can run there. So when we look from an application point of view, it's not so much about the infrastructure stack. So you don't need the exact same stack everywhere, but you need, say, a common API standard or a common standard that allows you to run applications that are developed for one environment in a different environment, because that only allows to scale the applications over different environments, different clouds. In the very beginning of the computer age, we had this silos of operating systems, and then came the POSIX standard that allowed to develop applications for different operating systems. Then we had the different network silos when IP was standardized to let them communicate to each other. I think we need this now for the different cloud silos that we currently have. And the initiatives should take care of these standards.
Let me maybe add to what you said, Kai. If you compare the United States with Europe, I mean, you see it's well, actually the market size is comparable, but it's much more uniform, which means there's a lot larger players there. And if you have like ecosystems like infrastructure platforms, cloud platforms, scale really is a big advantage. So if we in Europe want to compete with our much more fragmented, smaller businesses to such an ecosystem, we need to collaborate much more in order to be competitive. That's the only way we can do that. And collaborating is really hard for companies, because what you learn to do is you compete with each other, right? That's how our economy works. We have kind of mastered this in the way we do open source software development, because there we have actually learned how to collaborate across company organizational boundaries. But we haven't learned it yet when it comes to, well, how do we operate environments? How do we do standards together? We have maybe half solved, but not really. I mean, SCS is trying to contribute a lot to that. And we have not necessarily learned how to collaborate also as businesses, because in the end, as a customer, if I want to use cloud infrastructure, not from like a single huge provider, which I trust will not go away, but from a network, I need those operators to somehow collaborate also commercially, so I can maybe contract with one and get services from several, which is a very resilient setup if you can get it working. But you may need to get it working, and we haven't done that yet. So I think that's the thing we need to solve.
I can assure you that's hard to discuss in a company, right? But Thor mentioned that co-opetition is the way to go. We have competition, but we also have to cooperate and collaborate to be competitive against other players in the market, right? So it has to be learned by these companies, otherwise they will fail, I think.
But I mean, we have been talking about collaboration, and that is also a mindset, or open source is a mindset. And what I found interesting, Christian, was in one of your LinkedIn posts, you said you doubt there's a real will to collaborate. Why do you say that?
Yeah, so this is the Kleinstaatlerei we had at the beginning. So the problem is who is the competitor. So we compared at the moment at the lowest level, and we try to establish cloud infrastructures here in Europe, or also in the US and so on, and all of them think they have the best way to build the cloud infrastructure. We do not focus in the end on the CSP or the MSP or the customers of the MSP. We always focus on how can I as an ISP sell the best way my product. And in the end, it's about happy CSPs, that they have a high quality. We need happy STACKIT in Europe. We need a happy Horizon in Europe. We need a happy Plus Surfer in Europe, so that they can build high quality infrastructures that then can be consumed by themselves as an MSP or by their customers. But in the end, we have, as ISPs, have to prove that's doable to build those infrastructures here in Europe together. And we have to collaborate to do this, because it's pretty complex. So we saw this visualization from Michael earlier this day, how complex it is to build such an infrastructure. We have a lot of technology partners, and the larger the companies are that operate the cloud infrastructures, the more people you have to care about. You have a lot of teams. You have teams that do the virtualization layer on top of existing compute nodes. You have a team that is doing the compute nodes. You have a team that is doing the switch. You have a team that is doing the operating system on top of the switch. You have a team doing the firewall. You have another team doing the routing infrastructure, and so on. And we have to build solutions that can handle all of those teams and that work together, so that the provider has a high quality. And we do not have this at the moment. We build a lot of those cloud infrastructures like Open Telecom Cloud, like EONOS, like OVH, like STACKIT, like all of them. And when you compare them with the quality of a hyperscaler, that there is a huge gap between, and we have to solve this gap, and we have to focus how can this gap become smaller so that the companies that have their payload, the companies that operate their payload on top of those cloud infrastructures are already interested in making their business, and they don't care about is this a European cloud infrastructure or is this US based, or they want to make business on top, and they need high quality, they need good SLAs, they need availability of the services and so on. And this is the problem at the moment. We have so much fragmentation, we have so low quality on the infrastructures. We do compete on the lowest level and say, this tool is better, no, this tool is better. It's not about the tools, and it's about standard operations. It's about how to measure the quality of the services, how to bring out service landscapes on top, how to do the operations of those landscapes in large scale, not in we build one data center with, I don't know, 100 or 1,000 compute nodes. It's about 10,000s of compute nodes and how to operate them in the field, and how to bring them to the shop floor, how to bring the industry on top of this, and how to do this for decades, not for the next 2 years or 3 years or 5 years. Nobody is interested in this in the end. And we have to focus on how to standardize this. And I think the standard is already there. We have POSIX for Linux, we have Kubernetes for the service landscapes. We have to think about how to make the network layer a little bit better when talking about VPN and software-defined manufacturing and stuff like this. But everything is there, and we have to say, we pick this, and then we can build solutions on top, and then the industry can integrate it in their shop floors. And they do not want to integrate, you do not want to have, for example, when you have railway systems, there we have technologies that's around 40 or 50 years old, and they cannot exchange it because it's not doable for them. And they go back to the technology from the 90s there, because this is more reliable than the current technology stacks we have. And we have to focus on make this rock solid for the next 20 or 30 years. And it's not about the next 5 years. And it's not about to have this one huge hyperscaler in Europe. We need tens of them, and they have to operate cloud infrastructure in a very, very good way so that other service providers can jump on and can bring out their service landscapes. And you have also to not think about how to do this run in a public context. There are so many companies that are not interested in moving their payload to a public infrastructure. They need private cloud infrastructures as well that are operated in the same way, and the companies need to be enabled to do this on their own. They are not interested to, there is an external entity that makes it for you, because this external entity will go away in maybe 5 years, and when I'm the Deutsche Bahn, I cannot rely on a company that is only there for 5 years. The company has to be there in 50 years as well. And this is the problem we have at the moment, and we will not solve this by having companies that say we are the next big one, we are the next hyperscaler, we are the biggest one, the best one, and we have the best solution. We need standards on top, then we have to integrate the cloud infrastructures on the bottom, we have to build service landscapes on top, and we have to do this together. The small companies that have the innovation, that have the flexibility to do the things, and the big ones that adapt them and really bring them to the field, and then we have to talk to automotives to bring them to the shop floor and stuff like this.
Yeah, any other thoughts on
I'd like to add a little bit about that. I think on my journey, like being in STACKIT for over 5 years now, I would say I feel a permanent Dunning-Kruger curve, actually, because I always keep learning what's the place we actually need to go to like scale in a dimension like you mentioned, because there is severe technical differences between building a cloud that has 100 nodes or a cloud that has tens of thousands of nodes, and this is a thing that is usually not publicly known, or the things how to do that at scale and how to do these real like global multi-regional setups with consistent data and so on when it comes to access management or permission complex problems to solve, which are actually more related to really like the university stuff that the day-to-day business that we encountered, let's say, some years ago. So this massive scale brings requires actually massive knowledge and awareness about the problems. This is not widespread, this knowledge, and when you're lucky, then there is some paper maybe released by Google, how they do it or so, and then you can see how, in which dimensions they think and what's related to maybe what's actually already there in open source, and there is usually also quite some differences. So this is important when it comes to scale, and this is also, like I said, connecting to the universities that actually can also solve hard problems, because this knowledge actually, I mean, I would say 5% guessed number from people that leave the university are very, very good in using a cloud, but maybe 5 or less % can actually build a cloud. And this is, I don't know about the numbers really, but I think it's the way it goes, because this is where value is generated, like building a cloud, building software on a cloud and doing business. And this knowledge is actually quite specific also when it comes to semiconductors and so on. It's very like pushing upwards, and we need to have these competences and bring them together to really like create the foundational projects that are able to manage these kind of problems.
Yeah, we've been talking about like business models and businesses. How can we make sure that open source solutions are used for relevant use cases? How can we foster that? Like, how can we bring them into reality, those solutions? Do you have any ideas about that?
I think one important step, which is sometimes also in public media not recognized, is how much open source there is actually in the backends. So we usually look at the desktops, at the office workers and so on, but there is also a large potential in backend systems, in hosting servers for example, public space or everywhere. So I guess this is very important to see. So this is a potential that is somehow, at least in public, I think in IT it's clear. But maybe also focusing on open source in that area is much more convenient actually, and much easier to drive forward than when it comes to really like end user stuff.
Sebastian?
I think it's not only about collaboration, it's also about marketing for the topic itself. If we take a look at the business structure of Saxony, so 99% of the enterprises are SMEs with less than 20 employees. An optimistic 25% of them are thinking about digitization or have started digitization projects. But if you ask this 25% if they're doing their projects with open source or AI, maybe they know, maybe they don't. But there are still roughly 75% who have no idea how to cope with digitization and the digital era. And to let them know that what is going on right now, and that they are falling behind or they were off the market if they do not start right now. I think this is a very important point for the industry or for the companies that are working on digital solutions, to convince also the small SMEs to start their way into digitization. And because they haven't started yet, there's a big chance to convince them that they can and they have to do it with open source and not with some technology of the hyperscalers from the United States.
And how are you fostering that? Like, how are you supporting that in the future by the means of the strategy, for example?
So we can only give advice to the SMEs. We cannot tell them you have to do your business with STACKIT or any other company. But what we can do as politicians to be on events like this, telling or encouraging SMEs or going to other events like and working together with the chambers and telling the people about what I learned today and spread the word. And yes, we have the chances to subsidize projects for digitization. They're very well financed in Saxony, and we do spread the word on these programs. But the most important step is that the entrepreneurs in the SMEs have to be convinced by the technological solutions and not by the politicians.
Yeah, so there are some thoughts about that. Matthias, you were first, and then Tor.
Yeah, Sebastian, I think there's a few things you may be able to do, or maybe your colleagues may be able to do. I think it starts with education. Get young people interested in technology, and not just consuming technology, but touching it, getting their hands dirty, learning how things work, and actually doing things, because I think that's kind of the ground on which we all live if we as a nation want to be successful in the next decades to come. We need a whole lot of people that know how technology works and want to work on it, want to contribute to that. So that's I think something that we can do. And then the second thing, I love the fact that there's like funded projects. I mean, I've been living on one now for 4 years, for the first time in my life, not just being privately funded, and that's been great. In the end, the way our economy works is that procurement decisions need to have policies that support that, because that's more sustainable than funded projects. So I think we need to understand, if we have the goal, we want to achieve certain sovereignty aspects, we want to have a certain resilience in the way we do IT, we need to have policies in place that value those things. Open source would be an important thing there. Other things where you avoid dependencies, where you maybe have networks of companies as opposed to single vendors you depend on, would be helpful. I think we can do a lot in that space, and I love to see some progress. I think I mentioned the EU Commission, which has finally actually made a big step forward. I think there's a lot more steps to follow, not just at the EU level, but also at the different nations and states we have.
Just one sentence to the education topic you mentioned. Saxony is still, for decades, on the first place among the 15 other countries or Länder of Germany, especially when it comes to terms of the STEM education. And then for the higher education, like in the universities, we also have a very good equipped ecosystem with the technical universities and the surroundings of the Fraunhofer Institutes, Max Planck Institutes, and so on. So this is one, let me say, this is our signature topic for Saxony in the field of education. Just learning or giving all the pupils the chance to get in deeper contact with the STEM topics and raise new engineers and bright minds there. Yeah.
Okay, Tor, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I can't help myself. Well, I think we need to break the problem into two pieces, right? For the 75% SMEs that don't, if we as a technology product community cannot deliver compelling products, no amount of marketing or political encouragement will help. So job number one for us in the private industry is let's finally get over ourselves a little bit and start collaborating and building solutions that actually are attractive and work and are competitive. Yes, that does mean we'll probably have to see some sort of intellectual consolidation among the big players. I was very happy to see with NeoNephos that STACKIT, SAP, and T-Systems are the leaders of the pack. Wow, what a concept. If those three guys can get together and agree on some things, the rest of us will follow. I was also very happy to see when Martius founded ALASCA that we had secunet and STACKIT, big players, important players, in particular in government context, getting together. Well, that's the layer where we got to get our products in order so that they are compelling for the users. Christian, you said it very well, that it's got to, it's the users and the customers of the initial users that have to be, that is the ones that got to benefit here. So that's blob 1. Blob 2, and then we come back to government. We cannot rely on that government, die Weichen stellen, always, before we in the private industry start doing something. Right? So yes, government, EU, has a role to play, and they're desperate, and they're funding all kinds of projects. There's money everywhere, but you could make it a little bit easier, right? The bureaucracy hurdle is enormous. That means it's completely uninteresting for most company under a certain size to even participate, right? So that's part 1. And part 2 is that we've talked about it. You have to build up the competence to actually be able to integrate and deal with products that are Microsoft -1 in finishedness. We are at 95% if we put it together. We are not at 100%. Yeah? But that means that the political Weichenstellen has to be that you're actually not just encouraging or telling you, being neutral in terms of who can, who do you encourage people to use. No, you actually have the competence to be technical competence to use the stuff yourself. That is the best demonstrator ever. If the tax authority all of a sudden had open source proper made in Europe software, that would be awesome. Huh? So, but we have to distinguish these two things, and we like to go in circles. We like to say, oh, we are the private industry, we can't do something because the government hasn't done it yet. And the government says, oh, I got to think about it and make policy, and by the way, there's an election next year, so it's going to push it 2 years, right? We have to break that circle. And the way we break it is for us in the private industries to get some compelling product out there, and we do that by collaborating, and open source is the way to go. And on the other side, government, you've got to build the competence to actually comfortably buy this stuff so that there's actually money flowing in to encourage the system. And these two things must be considered separately, because otherwise you have a sort of a Entscheidungsstau, decision queue.
Maybe.
Two small things to add, and I think you asked before about how to make the project successful, and I think also in open source and these collaborative projects, decision making and strong decision making is actually a key factor of bringing the thing to life and making it successful. And so I think clear structures when it comes to, or let's say strong decisions, like in any enterprise, I guess, are an ultimate requirement, and people stepping forward and making them is also crucial, I think. And sometimes deciding in a bad way is better than not deciding at all. This is sometimes a feeling outside of, let's say, the public stuff.
Yeah, well, I don't have any idea about the time. Are we finished? Okay. So that would be a great final words. Sorry for that, because I don't have anything like any time sign here. Thanks for your input. Thanks for your words, and thanks for your at least positive outtake. I mean, there's a lot to do, but I think we are all fighting for the same thing in the end. So let's do our job, whatever we can do to foster that topic. Thanks for being here, and thanks for listening, and sorry for the delay. If we have a delay, I don't know.